Um, so with that, we are close to starting the talk. So today's topic is on our papers, some practical pointers. So how to write research papers in our area, what is expected, what is important. And Professor Terence Sim will provide us insights into those topics. So just a short introduction of the speaker. So Dr. Terence Sim is an associate professor at the School of Computing, National University of Singapore, and he's also the Vice Dean of the NUS Office of Admissions. Over 2 decades, Dr. Sim has conducted research in biometrics, computer vision, computational photography, and privacy in images. He served as the second vice president in the International Association for Pattern Recognition from 2020 to 2022, and is still chairing a committee there. He's also active within the IEEE Biometrics Council, where he chaired the selection working group for the annual awards given by the council for 2 years in a row. Dr. Sim obtained his PhD from Carnegie Mellon University in 2002, his master's degree from Stanford University in 1991, and his SB from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 1990. So a great resume, and I leave the floor to you, Terence, so please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vito. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I think people are coming in from all over the world. Very good day to you. I'm so glad to be able to share this session with you. First off, I want to thank the IEEE Biometrics Council for inviting me to give this short presentation, and especially for Vito for actually he came to me even last year, right, at the IJCB, and we had a good time there. And then I gave a similar talk there. So I want to thank Vito again for hosting, for inviting me. So yes, I have lots to share. So let me just start my slides. And okay, I believe my is my screen showing? Yes.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. So, all right. So this is a talk I've been giving for so many years now. You can see all the dates below, all the way beginning from 2010, right? So it's almost 15 years since I started this. And this is part one. There is obviously a part two, but not today. So the whole idea started because writing papers is something that many researchers have to learn of, obviously, and initially they struggle with, right? So over the years, I thought I'll be able to give some practical pointers. So that's what this talk about. That's what today's talk will be about, right? So you've heard of the saying, is the pen mightier than the sword, right? Only if you write well, okay? If you don't write well, then I'm afraid the sword is still more powerful than the pen, okay? So keep that in mind, all right? So, so very quickly, I'd like to do a poll just to get a sense of where everyone is coming from. So if you could just scan that QR code, and then take the poll. Let me activate it on my side. Yes, okay, I've activated it. So please scan the QR code and then tell me where you're from, right? So you will see a map, okay? And then, yeah, so let's see where people are from. Oh, okay, maybe it was too short. Only 4 people responded. Okay, we have people from Europe and some from Australia. All right, okay. Apologize, I think you may not have time to react to this. I see a hand raised in the participant, but I'm gonna defer the Q&A to later, okay? Just in the interest of time, okay? All right. The next question is here. Let me activate this one. So if you could scan this QR code, okay? Okay. So let's take a look. What's your experience in technical writing? Okay, most people have fewer than 3 years of experience, which is what this talk is for. We have some mid-career authors, and we have a few seasoned writers, right? So I'm glad to see that in the audience, because I think the seasoned writers, well, unfortunately, this is not quite a dialogue. So otherwise, normally if it's an open session, I could invite you to also share your experience. All right? Okay, so it's about more than half early researchers, and about 40% mid-career, and about 3%. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And then perhaps the final question would be this one. Let me just activate this one. Again, if you could share the QR, could scan the QR code. What specific issue in technical writing would you like me to address, right? This is for my planning for the future, for a future talk, right? So just enter a word. Okay, the answers are coming in. Okay, paper, journal introduction. Oh, was it too short? Oh dear. Maybe it was too short.
It got locked.
Oh, it was locked, is it? Okay. Okay, so let me, I think now it's reopened again. If you could just, somehow it was the timer. I should deactivate the timer. Okay. I should deactivate the timer. Okay, I've done that. ChatGPT. All right. That's a good one. That's a good one. Haven't thought about ChatGPT, but maybe I should, because these days it's obviously a tool that people can use. Okay. Disappointment, methodology, nightmare. Okay, writing. Okay. Thank you. So let me just deactivate. I think I will save this and mull on it, right? Thank you so much for that. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation. Okay, so this is obvious, but I thought I should share this slide. Okay, so a poor writing can hurt you, right? These are the various ways. People can misunderstand your work. Few people will cite your paper. Your contribution is weakened. Your work is not reproducible, etc., etc. And I guess the scary thing is reviewers would reject your paper, right? Obviously, I mean, all of us have to submit our papers. You don't write well, your reviewers misunderstand. They're going to just say reject, okay? And that's the last thing you want to happen, obviously, right? Okay, so poor writing can definitely hurt you. On the other hand, good writing will definitely help you, right? It can lessen misunderstanding. It can encourage citations. Now, it doesn't guarantee paper acceptance. Obviously, I wish that was the case, right? But certainly, it can increase the chance of your paper being accepted because it's clear and people understand, right? At least the writing will not hinder what you're trying to communicate. Okay, so I hope you keep that in mind. Okay, that's why we need to write well. Okay, so let me share with you very quickly my personal story. Okay, so when I was a PhD student a long time ago, I wrote my very first, thesis proposal or whatever, I forget what, and I gave it to my advisor, who was Professor Takeo Kanade, right? And he took a quick look and then he threw it back to me and he basically said, "Your writing is bad. I don't understand it. Go and revise." Okay. So immediately I felt like this, right? Like this guy, not the guy in black. I felt like this guy, right? I was like, oh no, I cannot breathe. Okay. So I really took this advice and I went back and I did a lot of improvement, right? And ever since then, over the years, I've always been trying to improve my writing to this very day, right? I still look for ways in which I can improve my writing. So given all that, I would, share some tips and ideas with you, okay? Just based on my experience, based on what my advisor has told me, okay? But let me begin with these assumptions, okay? You and I must agree on these assumptions. Otherwise, the rest of this talk is not for you, okay? These are the assumptions. You must agree that writing well is important, okay? And I am going to assume that you can also write grammatically correct sentences, okay? That grammar shouldn't be your biggest problem. If it is, then please fix your grammar, okay? I'm not teaching English here, okay? Occasional mistakes are okay. I think most reviewers are forgiving. Occasional grammar mistakes, they can overlook it. But if it's persistent grammatical mistake, it becomes very difficult to read and therefore very difficult to understand, right? Okay, and then the third assumption I'm going to make is that you actually have good research to write about, okay? Because if you don't, then forget writing. Your first order of business is to get the good research done, okay? So keep that in mind, okay? These are the assumptions, okay? Now, in terms of books, let me offer you these two, okay? The book on the right, Scientific Writing, there's even a web page for it. I hope it's still alive and operational. I benefited a lot from this book, Scientific Writing, with very concrete examples, okay? And some of the material presented here are taken from this book, okay? And then the other book, the one on the left, Power Language, was recommended to me by my advisor, Prof. Takeo Kanade, right? It's called Power Language, okay? So both are very good books. I encourage you to refer to it, okay? All right, so for today's abbreviated talk, I really only have time to cover two things, okay? Which is the introduction and the title, okay? I have a lot more to say about the other sections of your paper, you know, your figures, your literature review, and so on, but that will be for another time, okay? But today, let's focus on the introduction and the title. So let's start, of course, with the introduction, okay? So here's a typical introduction, okay? This is one from a paper I wrote years ago, okay? I'll just take a quick read. Keystroke dynamics has become a popular research area in the field of biometrics recently. Keyboard being the most commonly used input device and the need of very less computing power to analyze keystrokes. Keystroke dynamics has virtually become the most widely available. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is the typical introduction, right? And then a little bit about who else has done something, right? So S.J. Shepard was the first to investigate continuous keystroke authentication, blah, 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 all right? And then followed by some kind of motivation, right? Can a sample of keystroke data identify a user without any, okay? So these are the typical things you find in an introduction, okay? Now, the obvious question is, are introductions even necessary? Okay, so this is taken from the book Lebrun, right? The scientific writing book, right? And he's quoting this person called Kumar, and Kumar says, I don't usually read introduction. Okay, most of what in there is repeated verbatim elsewhere in the paper anyway. They are a waste of time, right? And introductions always say the same thing. The problem is important, everybody else, but the author is doing it wrong. And so they usually end up with a boring table of contents. So I skip them. Okay? Is that true for you? Do you think, especially when you read a paper, do you think introductions are really necessary? I mean, Kumar has a point here, right? Okay? So as a reader, do you think introductions are necessary? And then now flip the question. As a writer, do you therefore think introductions are necessary? Okay, so think about it, right? Think about it. Because if it's not necessary, then why bother? Okay, okay. So what is the purpose of the introduction? Okay, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? I mean, I know this is not, I can't really open it up for Q&A, but think about it. What is the purpose of the introduction? Okay. Here's the answer, right? To keep you from guessing. To me, the purpose of the introduction is to answer this question in the reader's mind. And the question is the following: why should I read the rest of the paper instead of throwing it away right now? Okay? Because remember, the reader has that option. Okay, the reader, he or she is reading your introduction, and if the introduction is not meeting the requirements, is not doing its job, then the reader is very likely to crumple up that piece of paper and throw it away. Okay, even if it's a PDF paper, right? But you know what I mean, okay? So as a writer, I always keep this in mind. I need to convince the reader to keep on reading the rest of my paper. Don't stop here. That's my goal when I write the introduction. Okay? Thank you, Vito, for opening up the chat, right? So that you can just quickly type your reaction. Okay? And then we can have the Q&A later. I promise we'll have some time for Q&A. Okay? So think about it in this way. 3 strikes, you're out. What do I mean? Okay. When a reader is looking for your paper, okay, typically using some search engine, say Google Scholar or whatever, right? The reader is first comes across your title. Okay, you have a title. The title looks interesting. It's sort of what the reader is looking for. Okay, as in mind, reads your title. So your title is the first thing to get the attention of the reader. Am I right? Okay, and then the reader will say, okay, this title looks interesting. I'd like to find out a bit more, and then goes for your abstract. Okay, reads your abstract, which is typically 100 to 200 words. Okay, reads the abstract and, okay, is this good? Is this bad? Is this what I'm looking for? Okay, and already if it's not, the reader may just say, okay, this is not the paper for me, right? But very often the reader would say, okay, this looks more, I want to find out more. And then the third thing the reader will do is to now read your introduction. Okay, so if you think about it, the introduction is your third and final attempt to convince the reader to read the rest of your paper. Okay, let me repeat. Okay, you have the title, first strike, abstract, second strike, introduction is your third strike. Your third attempt to convince the reader to read the rest of your paper. Okay, your last chance. So you better make it count. All right. So the reader is asking you, so what? Okay, this is the best image I have of a sort of a skeptical, sneering kind of expression. Okay, so what? You know, what are your contributions? Okay, what are your contributions? Because that's what the reader wants to know. Okay. So in terms of contributions, here's a typical one. Okay, so let's read together this contribution. This paper has 2 main contributions. First, we develop a particle filter-based approach for tracking the 3D head pose using a statistical facial texture model. Second, we propose a framework for tracking the 3D head pose and the facial animations in real time using an online appearance model where both the observation and transition models are adaptive. The second framework, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is what you typically see. Okay, now I submit to you that this is not contributions. This is just a list of work done. Okay, this is a list of what the author did. It is nothing to do, it's different from contributions. Now think of it this way, okay? This morning, I woke up, okay? I did many things, okay? I brushed my teeth, I washed my face, I shaved, you know, I showered, I had breakfast, I so on, I put on some clothes, and I came to work. I did many, many things. Do any of these actually contribute to science, to scientific knowledge? You would say no, right? You can do many things, most of which do not contribute anything at all to scientific knowledge. Okay, so therefore, do not confuse the two. Okay, when you write your contribution, it should be contribution. It should not be a list of what you did. Okay, so contributions are improvements to the knowledge or methods of science and engineering, or the areas in which your work is better than existing work. Okay, for example, your method is faster, is cheaper, is more robust, etc. Okay, it's about the benefits. It's not what you did, but why what you did is beneficial. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. Okay, beneficial to the community. Okay, So here's another way I want to share this to reinforce this message, okay? So what's the difference here, okay? You feel free to type in the chat. Here are two bottles, that one representing your work, that's the bottle on the left, and there's a bottle on the right, existing work, okay? Tell me what's the difference. Quickly type in the chat. If you can. Anyone? Yeah. Color of the cat. Yeah, color of the cat. Okay, great, great. Color of the cat, right? So obviously people see this, okay? But yeah, so what? It's a different color. Does it tell you what the product is about? You have no clue. It doesn't tell you what the product is about. So let's zoom in, okay? Let's zoom in. So you zoom in on the body of this, right? Okay? You're looking at font size 20, you know, the name of this and so on. Do you see any difference? No, you don't see any difference, okay? And then you zoom in and then you look at this, okay? Now you're at font size 9, very small font. Do you see the difference now? Okay? Yes. Okay? One is a shampoo and the other is a conditioner. Okay? Good grief. You have to look at font size 9 to see the difference. Okay? Now this, I picked this example because it actually happened to my wife. Okay? My wife, went to the supermarket wanting to pick the conditioner and not the shampoo, right? But on the shelf, the two bottles look alike, okay? And then she just grabbed one and then came and said, oh, good grief, I bought the wrong one, okay? And the reason is, oh, good grief, it's in font size 9, okay? So what is the point? What is the point of this example? Please, please, make clear your contributions. What's the difference between your work and existing work? You got to make it clear. You as an author, it is your responsibility to tell the reader what the difference is. You have to make it clear. Don't hide your difference. Don't hide your contributions in font size number 9 and expect your reader to read. Okay? Don't do that. Okay? Don't torture your reader. Okay? So this is the point I'm trying to make here. Okay? So what you would really like to do is to make the differences explicit. Okay? If you can create a table like this. So I'm using this table, this is the old days of virus and antivirus, right? Protection for your laptop, for example, right? So each column is a different antivirus product. You have Bitdefender, you have Kaspersky, etc., Norton antivirus, and so forth, right? So each column is a different product. Each row is a feature or the whatever thing that the product is supposed to do, right? Okay, and then what you want to do is to say that my method, okay, tick, 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 it ticks every row. But my competitor's method, existing method, oh, there are blanks here and there. Okay, so if you can summarize it in a table form, that would really help your reader. Okay, but the point is, make your differences explicit. Okay, don't hide it. This is not the time to hide it because you have to tell the reader what your contributions are. Otherwise, the reader is not going to read the rest of your paper. Okay, so I hope you understand this point. Okay, now let me elaborate a little bit more. To do a proper job, you need to understand the different types of paper that are there, the type of paper that you're writing. Okay, now loosely speaking, and this is not an exhaustive list, but these are roughly the 6 types. Okay, science paper, engineering, theory, comparison, survey, and tutorial. Okay, I don't have time to quickly go through. The slides are available, but let me just highlight. So, for example, if you're writing a science paper, okay, the content of your science paper is usually about discovering natural laws or testing hypotheses or predicting the outcome of theories. And therefore, the expected contribution of your paper is you have a new theory that fits the data better or has a better prediction, okay? Or your new theory requires fewer assumptions or is more elegant and so forth, okay? So these are the expected contributions if you're writing a science paper. Okay, now I suspect that many of the audience here, most of us here are writing engineering types of paper. In an engineering paper, you are typically solving a problem or building a system or evaluating system performance. You're doing one or more of these things, right? And therefore, the expected contribution of your paper are the following. Okay, are you solving a new problem no one else has solved before? Okay, or are you solving an existing problem but using a new method, and your method is requires fewer assumptions? Okay, or is your method more efficient, more robust, or cheaper, or whatever it is? Okay, these are the benefits. Okay, or are you showing the limits of systems performance? Okay, these are the expected contributions if you're writing an engineering paper. Okay, so and then in the rest of the table, I talk about theory and other kinds of paper and the expected contribution. Okay, so I don't have time to cover all this. Please refer to my slides for the details. But the key idea here is that you need to understand the type of paper you are writing and the expected contributions, and then be able to pitch your contribution clearly. Okay, make it as big as possible. If this is a time to brag, okay, if you're in a habit of bragging, I'm not an arrogant person. I don't like to brag, and neither should you. But this is the time to boast about your contributions. Really, if there's a place to do it, this is the place to do it. Okay, so short of using big font, you should think of ways to highlight your contributions. Okay, so that's really all I want to say about the introduction. Okay, it is how you pitch it and how you make clear your contributions. Okay, so I'll be happy to take your questions later on. Okay, but let me now quickly move on to the next big chunk in your paper, which is please share the slides. Yeah, sure, we can do that. We can share the slides. In fact, it's already on the webpage, but we'll be happy to do that, right? Okay, so let's move on next to the title, which is an important part. Okay, so here's the purpose of the title. Okay, is to catch the attention of the reader. Okay, remember the scenario. The reader is doing some research, is using Google Scholar or some search engine to look through possible papers to read, and comes across your title. Okay, so the title should catch the reader's attention. Okay, now don't worry about search engines. One thing that people told me is that they want to squeeze every possible keyword in their title, right? Make it as long as possible so that the search engine can pick it up. Please don't do that. Search engines have come a long way. They don't rely on just your title, right? Search engine these days can parse your abstract and even understand your paper, right? Modern search engines can do that. So don't worry about cramming every conceivable hashtag or keyword into your title. That's not the way to do it, okay? But the purpose of the title is to catch the attention of the reader, okay? So here's one, right? That being so, I think if you see this title, I think you would sit up. I certainly sat up when I saw this paper. This is a paper, okay? You can search for it, okay? Finding Naked People. You will sure make you sit up, okay? So that's an example of a catchy title. But of course, you can't always write such a title, and I'll give you some tips on how to write a good title, okay? These are the qualities that will make a good title. Unique, concise, clear, honest, and catchy, okay? And I will go through each of these in turn. All right, uniqueness, okay? Don't copy someone else's title unless you wish to parody it. Okay, unless you want to make a twist out of a famous title, somebody else's paper, don't do that. Okay, keep it concise. Okay, prefer short titles to long ones. Okay, if adding or removing a word to a title weakens it, then your title is just right. Okay, so let's look at this example here. Okay, here's a title: On Solving the Face Recognition Problem with One Training Sample per Subject. Okay, think about this. Is this title concise? How can you improve it? Think about it for a couple of seconds. Okay. What happens if I omit the words there? Okay. Face recognition with one training sample per subject. Does it communicate the same thing? Yes, it does. Yes, it does, right? In this case, go ahead and drop those extra words, right? You want concise. Conciseness is good, okay? So extra words are not good, okay? So use this to help you come up with a better title, okay? Here's another quality, okay? Clear. Your title should be clear. Let's look at this example. Web services dash an enabling technology for trading partners community virtual integration. Ooh, I struggle to understand this. What does it really mean? Okay. The problem is this thing here, trading partners community virtual integration. This is what is called a long modified noun. Okay. They are imprecise and confusing. Okay. You're using some nouns to describe other nouns. Okay. And that leads to a lot of confusion. Okay. How about rewriting it in this way? Web services, integrating virtual communities of trading partners. Okay, what do you think? First of all, it should be a lot clearer, right? The other good thing about this second form is that you're using the verb integrating, okay? In the first case, it was virtual integration, which is a noun, but turning that into a verb, integrating, is more powerful. Now, in English, verbs are powerful, okay? Use verbs. Verbs are action words, okay? People like action words. They grab attention. They are good, okay? So prefer to use action words, okay? Your reader will be drawn to it, okay? So here's a way of making it clearer by avoiding all these long, complicated adjectival phrases or nouns, okay? Okay, and like I said here, use verbs. Verbs make your title stronger. Okay? Okay. Here's another one. Here's another quality, honesty. Okay? Now, the title should set the correct expectations about the scope and purpose of the paper. Okay? Do not overclaim, do not underclaim your contributions. Okay? Because that's for instance, if you have a title that says to claim that you have solved world hunger, I think straight away most people will say that you're overclaiming. Okay, so don't do that. Okay, don't give the impression that you have solved this problem and that there's nothing left to do. That your paper is such a landmark breakthrough paper that after that no further research needs to be done. Okay, you shouldn't do that, obviously. So don't overclaim, but don't underclaim either, because that's undermining your own contributions. Okay, so that requires some experience to pitch correctly. Okay, so there's something called the first mover advantage. Okay, so here's an example. This is a paper that I wrote with my PhD student. Okay, the first title that my student came up with was Local Deformation Profile for Motion-Based Face Recognition. Okay, towards general motion-based face recognition. Okay, so we have the first mover advantage because we were the first paper at that time, this was published long ago, to suggest using motion to do face recognition instead of a static image. Okay, that means the motion of your face, okay, to perform the face recognition, not just a static image. Okay, so since we have the first mover advantage, we can claim a title like this, towards general motion-based. So it's towards, okay? I'm not saying I've solved it. Okay, I cannot do that. That will be overclaiming. So I'm saying I'm taking a step towards general motion-based face recognition. Okay, so that's what we end up using. Okay, now one of the safest way to come up with a title is the following. Okay, using method X to solve problem Y. Okay, in fact, if you just take a look at most titles, it is of this form: using method X to solve problem Y. Okay, it is honest. It is honest. It's very, very safe. Okay, but it is boring. I'm sorry to say, it is boring. Okay, people may forget your title and then forget your paper. All right, so you can always do better. Okay, but if in doubt, just say using method X to solve problem Y. You cannot go wrong. Okay, but whenever my students do that to me, I say, yeah, it's safe, but it's boring. Come up with a better title. Okay. All right. So how do you come up with a better title? Well, that's what I'm sharing with you right now. Okay. One way is to use a question. Make it catchy. Use a question. So here, Quo Vadis face recognition. This is an actual paper. I know the author is Ralph Gross. Okay. Quo Vadis means where are you going? It's Latin. Where are you going? Where is it going? In other words, face recognition, where is it going? What is the trajectory? What is the trend of face recognition? Okay? Question mark. A question is a hook. Okay? It really draws people in. People want to know, yeah, that's a good question. I want to read the paper to find out. Okay? Here's another one. Software acceleration using programmable logic. Is it worth the effort? Okay? Can you see that? Okay? So as a reader, say, hey, really, is it worth the effort? I want to know. I want to know. Okay? The next example is from me. Are digraphs good for free text keystroke dynamics? Okay, so using a question is a good way to make your title catchy. Okay, so consider doing this. However, caveat in red below, your paper should explicitly answer the question. Okay, so somewhere, if you use such a title in your paper, somewhere in your paper, hopefully introduction, but definitely by the conclusion, please answer the question. Otherwise, your reader will strangle you. Right? What have you done if you don't answer the question? You are teasing your reader, man. Come on, man. This is not a TV show where you're like teasing, oh, it's a dark room, the lady's asleep, and then the killer is in the room, and then you see the knife, and then to be continued next week. That's a cliffhanger. That's a teaser. It works great for TV. It doesn't work great for people. So don't do that. Make sure you answer the question in your paper. Okay? Okay, here's another way to have a catchy title. Use an acronym. Okay? VISOR, this is actually my fellow colleagues. This was his PhD thesis. VISOR, learning visual schemas in neural networks for object recognition and scene analysis. Okay, so he capitalized VISOR, VISOR, to form the word visor, which is a word, right? So it's an acronym. It's a nice choice of words. Okay. Here's another one, StarSec. Okay, stable random sample consensus for parameter estimation. StarSec, acronym. Very nice. Okay, I like this one. CRAM, compact representation of actions in movies. Okay, the word cram already suggests this compactness. You're trying to squeeze things into a limited space, right? You're cramming. That's an excellent title, very catchy. Okay, fantastic. I love this. Okay, so use an acronym if you can. Okay, here's another tip. You can combine unexpected concepts. Okay, the diner-waiter pattern in distributed control. Diner-waiter in Are you kidding me? Distributed control is a computer science problem. Okay, what's it got to do with restaurant and eating and dining and having a waiter, right? Unexpected concepts. Okay, it catches people attention. Okay, really good. Okay, this last one, hallucinating faces, and this one there's a nice story to tell. Okay, in case you don't know, hallucinating faces is by Simon Baker. He and I co-authored several papers together, but this is his paper, Hallucinating Faces. And I actually spoke to him and I asked him, how did he come up with this idea, right? This title. He says, if you recall, the paper is about super resolution, right? Given a low resolution face image, how do you increase the resolution? Okay. Now, Simon Baker told me, and I don't know if he's here in the audience, but Simon Baker told me, you're basically seeing pixels that are not there, right? When you super resolve, when you fill in the high frequency details, you are seeing pixels that are not actually there, right? That's called hallucination, seeing things that are not actually there. So he came up with this hallucinating faces, okay? So right now, the word has stuck. This idea of hallucination is even in today's LLM, right? We say that ChatGPT can hallucinate answers. What is that? It's actually from Simon Baker, okay? So this is something where, you know, if you're really good, it catches on in other fields as well, okay? Really clever idea, because normally when you think of hallucination, you think of somebody taking drugs, right? You're on drugs, so you start to see ghosts and you see, you know, whatever, okay? But hallucinating faces, wow, really clever, okay? So I hope this encourages you to think out of the box to come up with catchy titles, okay? Yeah. I note the comment in the box, okay, in the chat box. I won't read it, okay? Even in so-called more technical fields, you can be clever with coming up with catchy titles. I'll show you a few other examples shortly, okay? I'll show you a few other examples. Okay, use alliteration. Okay, what is alliteration? Alliteration is a sequence of words that begin with the same letter. For instance, power, papers, some practical pointers. Okay, can you get it? The P is alliterated. Okay, super speaking, tricks of the trade. Okay, that's using alliteration. Okay, here's another way, which is what I use. You can adapt from famous titles, saying, or poems. So we had a paper called "Smile, You're on Identity Camera." Okay. The reason we chose this was back in the old days. There was a TV show in the US at least called "Smile, You're on Candid Camera." Okay. So we twisted that to say "Smile, You're on Identity Camera." Okay. The idea is that the way you smile can be used to identify you. We're trying to say that the facial motion, the smiling action, is a biometric. Okay, so we came up with this title. Okay, some more catchy titles for you. An eye for an eye, a single camera gaze replacement method. Okay, can you see the two eyes here? The camera is one eye. The camera is looking at the user's gaze, right? The gaze is the other eye, okay? So an eye for an eye, the mechanical eye for a human eye. This is very clever, okay? And of course, we know it's an English proverb, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, okay? So this is a really good title, okay? Here's another one, water, water everywhere, okay? This is from the famous poem, water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Okay, but this paper is about something else. Okay, here's one, Sex and the City. Why? Because there was a TV show called of that name, or Sex in the City, or something like that, right? So Sex and the City is a play on the TV show. Okay, and then the one below, Six in the City. Instead of SEX, it's SIX. Okay, look at this. 6 in the City, introducing Real Tournament, a mobile IPv6 based context-aware multiplayer game. Okay, how cool is that? Okay, very good, interesting, catchy titles. Okay, so you can be creative. Once you see a few examples, you will know what to do. Okay, all right, cool. Okay, very quickly. Please guard against sounding arrogant. Okay, so Simon, here's an example. Simon Baker and I, we co-authored this. Okay, we have a paper called A Fundamental Theorem of Stereo. That was our very first title. We submitted this, and wow, one of the reviewers really scolded us and said, "You guys are so arrogant in your title. You know, as if, how dare you claim that what you have done is a fundamental theorem, you know?" So Simon Baker, again, he's really good. All he did was to put a question mark at the end. So now he reads a fundamental theorem of stereo. Wow. A simple question mark can change the perception of the title. Okay? Really powerful. From sounding arrogant, the first version sounds a fundamental theorem of stereo. Okay? That's the tone. To a fundamental theorem of stereo. Wow, just that question mark does wonders. So I really take my hat off to Simon Baker. Okay, he's really good with words and with this. Okay, can really change the title. Okay, so let me end with this. Okay, that's basically all I have to share. But let me end with this story and then we can take some questions. Okay, so here's the story about a rookie reporter. Okay, a rookie reporter was asked to cover this story. Okay, there was a lunatic man who escaped from a mental asylum. Okay, he climbed over the fence out of the mental asylum, climbed over the fence into a nearby house. A woman who lived alone was hanging laundry out to dry in the backyard. Okay, the lunatic befriended and seduced her. Okay, ate the food in the kitchen, stole some of the clothes, and then ran away. Okay, so the editor of the newspaper gave the reporter one full page of space, so the reporter covered every angle, took lots of photos. Okay, he interviewed the doctors at the asylum, interviewed the victim, in this case the woman, the neighbors, the police, the lunatic's parents, and even legal experts. Okay, and then when he finished his long article, the editor said, "Oops, sorry, please cut to 1/4 page because the president of our country is visiting us, so we need space for that story." Okay, so the reporter went back to his desk, spent a few hours rewriting everything. He managed to squeeze everything into 1/4 of a page. Okay, from a full page to 1/4 page. Okay, but bad news. The editor said, "Oh, an earthquake just hit our neighboring town. We have to publish that story also. Please cut your article to 1 photo and 1 title." Okay? 1 photo and 1 title. That's all the space you have. Okay, wow. The reporter pondered long and hard. Finally, he managed to cram the whole story into 5 words. What were the 5 words? What were the 5 words? Yeah, I'll pause and let you think. Okay, the 5 words that summarize this story here. Okay, this story. What do you think the 5 words are? If you have a suggestion, type it in the chat. Why I'm quitting my job. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay. Okay, I will not keep you guessing. Here are the 5 words. Nut, screws, washer, and bolts. Okay, I want to explain this. There's a lot of double meaning here. I'm sure most of you will get it. If you don't, then you ask somebody who does. Okay. These are the 5 words. Okay. So with that, let me end my talk. With this summary, good writing skills can be learned. Practice, practice, practice. The introduction is the most important section of your paper. 3 strikes and you're out. Okay, remember there's the title, the abstract, and then the introduction. 3 strikes and you're out. Basically, in the introduction, you need to answer, so what? Okay, so why should the reader not throw away your paper, right now? Why should the reader read the rest of your paper? That's the answer. That's the thing you need to answer, okay? And finally, the title serves to set your paper apart from others and to catch the reader's attention. Okay, with that, thank you very much. So let me stop share.
So thank you for the very nice talk, Terence. It's very interactive, so it's nice. So I think also some of the audience started to interact later on. I also see that there are suggestions for part 2 as ASAP.
Yes, I do have enough material for part 2, but we can consider that. Yeah.
So if you have any questions, please post them in the chat or the Q&A. And while you think of your question, I can read some of the questions that were added when people were registering. So maybe this is a bit, let's say, not that easy to do, but do you have any suggestions for making the content presentation meet the best paper award level?
Oh, best paper award. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess it begins with doing solid research, right? Really, it comes down to it. Of course, you have to write well, but by far, best paper award is for the depth and the breadth of the research itself, right? I would say that's first and foremost. Yeah. That's I don't know. Is that helpful? I don't know.
Yeah, that's very difficult to answer.
It's difficult, yeah.
You were talking a lot about titles, and I think there were also comments that maybe in other areas there's like different, not rules, but different practices how people define their titles. And there was a question, what is your opinion on provocative titles? And for example, you showed also these titles with nicknames or acronyms.
Yeah.
But now a lot of papers do that, right? So can you still stand out with those types of titles?
Yeah, it can be hard. Acronyms are quite common these days. But really, I think this unexpected concepts, right? Hallucinating. I mean, my gosh, to me, to this day, that's still marvelous, right? Because hallucination is about taking drugs, right? You think, or there's something wrong with your head, right? You have a mental issue, so you hallucinate. Right? But no, this is for serious technical paper. So I don't know. I think that is still one of the most powerful and expected ways. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have another question now in the chat. So what is the order of introduction in writing? So I assume at what point would you write the introduction? Is that
I see.
first, or would you write other parts first and the introduction at the end?
Yeah, that's a good question. And Vito, feel free to share your experience as well. But for me, it's both ways. I think I make my students, first of all, when you write a paper, you should already have a pitch. You should already know what's the general idea you're trying to communicate, right? So that is enough to actually create an outline of your introduction. Because what's the angle of your paper about? Okay, you're not merely reporting experimental results. It's what is the pitch, you know? So that gives you a clue you can already begin writing the introduction in point form already, you know? And then that may be good enough for a start. And then as you write the rest of your paper, your literature review and whatnot, then you can come back, oh, wait a minute, because of this, now I have to emphasize this part more in the introduction, right? Especially when remember, you have to mention your closest rival, right? Because typically you are not the first one solving this problem, and there'll be existing ones. So you need to mention the work that's closest to ours is whatever. And that should be mentioned in the introduction as well, because that's what your reader needs to know. Your reader will know that, hey, so-and-so's work is similar to yours. What is the difference? So then you have to flesh that out in a precise way without getting into math, okay? An introduction is, don't bore your audience with all the technical details yet. That can come later. But so it's not easy writing the introduction. So I would say begin with a draft in your introduction. And then as you write the rest of the paper, you go back and iterate, right? That would be a good thing to do. I don't know, Vito, what advice would you have?
So it's very challenging. I would say everybody probably has a different approach on when or how to write the introduction. For me personally, it's the introduction takes the most time when I do it, right? So usually the methodology, which equation theory, it's easy. Related work is usually easy. Experiments are fine. But then the introduction is where you try to sell the paper. You have to come up with a nice narrative, which you probably have somehow in your mind when you develop the other sections. And so with me, I would say the introduction comes last. But it's usually, I try to develop it also when I think about other sections and when I write other sections. So I have sort of a narrative in mind, which gets refined through writing the rest of the paper, right? So at the end, that maybe makes it easier to write the intro for me personally, but it's usually the last step because it's also the most time-consuming for me. So
I agree.
My experience is also always spend a lot of time on the intro because it's really important for the reviewers. So if the intro is bad, I don't really care much about the rest, right? Because if I'm not convinced this is some sort of important paper, important contribution, then the rest of the paper also sometimes can be written well and it can be exceptional, but you may lose the reviewer at the intro.
That's right. That's right. Very, very important. I agree.
So I think there's questions about other sections of the paper. So what, for example, could be a clever way, yet honest and interesting to present existing work? So probably in the related work section, things like that.
This is the related work section. I do have a separate talk on that. Yeah. So maybe we'll KIV that. I'm hoping to get invited back for that. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So there's another question. So can we say what the results of a method algorithm's performance are, or is that like a contribution? And should we include the main results of the performance in the title? So, yeah, so it's a two-part question.
I hear the question. I think generally I wouldn't do that because it is expected that if you're proposing an algorithm, you will show that it's good in some way, that is better than existing, because otherwise you have no hope publishing, right? I mean, if you can't beat or equal the state of the art, then you better emphasize something else. Okay. So however, if your performance improvement is really significant, okay, for example, you come up with an algorithm that is 10 times faster than the existing state of the art, then I would justify that and saying that, put that in the title, super fast, a 10 times faster way to do face recognition, for example, then because that will be a very strong selling point. Order of magnitude is no joke, right? Most people only get a few percentage increase in performance or whatever but I think if it's such a big important thing, then by all means you can put that in the title, or a super efficient way, or improving performance by 10x or 20x. Wow, that would really catch people's attention, right? I think that's phenomenal. But other than that, unless you have this kind of thing, nah, don't put it.
So there's another question from the registration part. So how to refer to papers on which your methodology heavily relies on without looking like you just copied their material? So do you have any tips for that? Because sometimes research is incremental, right? So it can build on some other ideas. So how to present that so it doesn't appear that it's just a copy of existing work?
Oh, I think that's where you have to be more clear in that, because many reviews will say, wait a minute, yours is just an increment. Where is the most people say, yeah, so and so already did this. So that's where, like you said, introduction is really important. You have to really articulate and take time to do so. Really the difference in your work, so you can say, I'm building on so and so's work, but I'm making this non-trivial improvement. And you really need to explain that, because otherwise the reviewer will either not understand or think that, wait a minute, that's just a trivial thing. Anybody knows how to do that. Then that weakens your contribution. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. So it's always important to find what is unique, what is special,
Yeah.
why you actually did the research, and then clearly communicate that, right? So maybe
Yes.
in a bullet, maybe with, I don't know,
No.
be
Yeah.
explicitly spelled out, right? Sometimes
Yes. You have to elaborate with, 1 para, 2 para. You really need to do that. Really, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Great. Thank you, Terence. So I don't see any more questions now in the chat. So I would really like to thank you again for taking the time for doing this great webinar. There's definitely interest in doing part 2, and we can think about that, right? So when that would be possible. So thank you again for the presentation, and to everybody else. So this webinar was recorded, and if you would like to rewatch the talk, it will be posted as soon as the recording is available on the YouTube channel of the Council, and then you can take your time with all the suggestions and tips that Terence provided. So those were really great. So thank you again for the nice presentation.
Yes.
And yeah,
Thank you. Thanks, Vito, for inviting me. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Yes. Have a good day.
Goodbye. Yeah.
Bye-bye.